All right, can everybody see my screen? Akina, I can see. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Henry. Okay, my name is Sarah. I am one of the co-executive directors for Global Visionaries. We have several of us who are going to be speaking this evening. We're going to introduce ourselves as we come up to our turn to speak. I've been with Global Visionaries for about 3.5 years. I've been to Guatemala 3 times. I traveled with some of the people who are presenting tonight as well. And I also have a daughter who will be traveling this summer as well. So tonight we're here to tell you about the program, help to answer some questions. We want to make sure that this is a conversation. There are going to be close to 80 of us on this meeting tonight. So we will try to get all of those questions asked and answered. If you have a question during the presentation, you can use the chat, you can interrupt, you can raise your hand, and we will get to you as quickly as we possibly can. We will pause also a couple of times for questions and also hang around for any questions at the end. So you can use any of those methods to ask questions, and hopefully we'll get all of those answered as well. So we're going to go over some frequently asked questions that we know come up a lot. We're going to talk about curriculum. We're also going to talk about the financial piece to the program, and then also health and safety, and try and get all of those things answered as we go. Okay, and I'm going to pass it off to Mario.
Thank you. Gracias, Sara. Muy buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es Mario Flores. I am the other co-executive director next to Sara. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are as an organization. So Global Visionaries has been around for over 20 years. It was founded in 1997. We registered as a 501c3 nonprofit organization since 2002. We are not religiously affiliated, and the organization is run by 8 employees. And we have a bunch of interns that help us every day to make sure like everything runs smoothly, and you will get to know them a little ahead in the presentation later. But also, I wanted to talk a little bit about what our goals are. So our goal is to make the programs as diverse as possible. And our goal is to just aspire to get like 50% of the participants being students of color and the other 50% of the participants being white students. Now, if we break out the pie financially, we also aspire to get 50% of the participants being part of the financial aid program, and the other 50% of the participants being able to afford the price of the program. Now, depending on the finances and how much funding we have, those percentages might change. We notice that race and equity go hand by hand, and that sometimes the more funds we can allocate it in the scholarship program, the more diverse gets the program. So these past few years with the pandemic has been a little bit of challenge. We are close to those percentages, but we are not there yet. So last year we were about like 40, 45, 55% in the POC color and white student scholars, and also like around like 40 to 60% of the financial aid the goals that we have. Can we go to the next one? And I think that, yeah, go for it.
All right, hi, my name is Rachel Clint. I'm a senior at Shore School. I went to Guatemala as part of the immersion program in the late summer of 2021 cohort, and I am now a member of the board of directors of Global Visionaries as part of the advanced leadership program that Global Visionaries has after you return from the Guatemala trip or the pro-justice program. So anyways, hi, it's all nice to meet you. Thank you for coming out. And Global Visionaries' mission is to empower young people to become global leaders for a just and sustainable future. So when we say global leaders and like maybe global citizens, we mean people who are able to understand, empathize, and know how to navigate a global environment and be good global citizens. And so our young leaders are at every level of Global Visionaries. Even if it's you're first starting out with the program and going to Guatemala, we have leaders of the day where you and your peer and another person from the cohort will step up and just be the leaders of the day. It's not anything too big, but Global Visionaries is really good about providing chances for students to step up and take those leadership positions where you can learn and grow and get the experience that is like kind of necessary like on into the future. We also have, like I said, the advanced leadership program where you can grow in your role of leadership within Global Visionaries and become a board director like me. And I am full like voting member. I am like a legally voting member. And then we also have junior leaders who lead the curriculum that Global Visionaries teaches participants, and they're former alumni and they're ALP or part of the advanced leadership program, and they're often students as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zaya Kruger. I'm a student at Ingram High School, a junior. I participated in the early summer cohort going to Guatemala this past summer, and I am now a part of ALP as a junior leader. So I will be traveling in a future immersion and helping teach some of the curriculum that GV presents and creating some of it as well. So our philosophy is really followed by like this one quote that kind of summarizes what we're about. So I'll just read that out to you guys. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you understand that your liberation is tied to mine, let's work together. Global Visionaries is an organization that strives to shy away from saviorism ideals and not like going to Guatemala or doing service. It's not to help these people. It's going there with an understanding and working together with people for a greater good. I personally definitely really connect to this and strive to shy away from saviorism as well. And yeah, this is a quote that's often like you'll hear it if you decide to join Global Visionaries, you'll hear it quite often. And yeah, it's very important and it definitely resonated with me. And yeah, throughout the Global Visionaries program, we, as I mentioned, shying away from saviorism and teaching people about the effects of U.S. imperialism in countries like the Global South, which to many are known as third world countries, but that is created, like a term created by the U.S. So definitely shying away from all that sort of stuff and actually having a real understanding as to why communities may not have the privileges that we have in the United States.
All right, thank you. And hi, my name is Billy Lopez. I'm a Guatemala Program Director. I'm speaking here from Guatemala. I was in Seattle a few weeks ago. I probably met some of you here tonight in the schools. We made a bunch of school presentations. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. And so Mario mentioned at the beginning that we are 8 staff working right now with working in Global Visionaries. You see Mario, which is here tonight, and then you see a younger version of myself. And then next to me is Aurelio Hernandez, who is the senior director, who lives with both of us. We live in Guatemala. And then we have Sara, Sara Popelka, who is here tonight as well. And then on the bottom, we have Jenny Verhalos, who is the finance operator. I don't know how, what's the exact role. And then we have Jasmine, Jasmine Fernandez, right? Who also works with us part-time. She's an alumni, right? And she now works with the social justice group. She develops a lot of the curriculum that we deliver, and is going to work alongside with the junior leaders as well. And then we have Gabriela Torres, who just joined the organization a few months ago, and she's going to be working in supporting all the areas of the organization. And then we have Mason Tepper, who was an alumni also from Ingram, He did the program when he was a freshman, and then stick with us the next 4 years of his high school time, and he went back as a junior leader as well. And now he is working with us part-time as well, and developing also curriculum, helping us communicating with the students, etc. Right? So these are the 8 people that are constantly working in Global Visionaries, but also we work with teachers from the Seattle Public Schools. We work with volunteers, interns, the alumni, right, that are all here. And so it's a big community when we speak about the community of Global Visionaries. And so also Mila is here, who actually started Global Visionaries the same year I did. We just didn't meet until a few years ago. And so I don't know, Mila, you want to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself and what you have seen?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Mila Page. I use she, her pronouns. Like Billy said, I'm an alumni. I went originally in 2007. Since then I became a teacher. I taught at Cleveland High School for 3 years. Now, as far as my role with Global Visionaries, I'm on the board of directors, and I've also been a trip leader for the past 2 years. And so it is, when Billy and everybody's talking about the community that's created, it's a strong one. And the amount of growth that students go through, both from a personal perspective and then also from like a teacher lens, is just amazing. And part of that is because of the welcoming environment and the connections that people made, and it's very LGBTQ friendly and trans friendly. It's friendly, you know, for people of all different backgrounds. And in part of this growth that we see with people, it's a lot of like both stepping up and doing leadership roles like Rachel was talking about, but engaging in really critical conversations about the things that are happening in the world. So being able to go on this trip as an adult and witness the amount of growth from the first day when we're all trying to get through the airport to the day that we go home, it's a really beautiful thing. So I'm so happy to be here with you all, and I'm happy to be able to share my experience, both from a perspective from lots of different angles. But yeah, it's so great to be here.
Thank you, Mila. Something I didn't mention is that the ratio that we have as part of our policy is to 6:1. So there's always going to be one adult, either as a teacher or a staff, for every 6 students in each cohort, right? And so all of us, in Seattle, they go through the same background check that the Seattle Public Schools requires, and here in Guatemala, we go through this background check that the local government requires to work with youth. Yeah, maybe we can go to next.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Mila. So what we're going to do next is we have a very short, I think it's less than 3 minutes long, this video. For some of you who saw classroom presentations, you'll see some similar shots in here. It's not the same video, it's shorter, but we want to make sure that parents get to see a little bit about what Global Visionaries is as well. So we'll do that. And Rachel, I can see you, so if you can give me a thumbs up or thumbs down about the sound once it gets started, that would be great.
The curriculum taught in GV really isn't like focused as much as you would see in like a normal school setting. So like the program itself focuses on social justice and environmental education. And so directly through like the emergence through Guatemala, you kind of see firsthand what you're being educated on?
It was a launching pad for me. When I first went to Guatemala and we had that conversation about the Guatemalan Civil War
and the U.S. involvement in that war, it was something that I'd never even heard of in school before.
The youth have just such an amazing opportunity to immerse themselves in language and culture during the trip, and they come back just excited and motivated to learn more.
We're pretty excited because moving forward, we're going to be having 4 different programs. One program that actually will travel to Guatemala if the conditions are such that we can travel abroad. Also, we are going to be able to deliver a 3-month webinar that the participants are going to be exploring social and environmental pro-justice issues in their communities, and that still can be actually taught without the traveling to Guatemala. The other component is participants will still get community service hours. We'll go out to the fields and doing some work to restore the greater parks of Seattle. Participants are going to be able to get Spanish lessons one-on-one.
And still stay connected to that same Guatemalan teacher that you had while you were there and do the online Spanish classes.
Also being part of the Mindful Traveler Book Club. So the idea is that one program will fit into the next program, or you can do both at the same time as well.
The immersion is about 2 weeks. The first thing that they do is visit the garbage dump in Guatemala City. We take them there because we want to show them the reality of Guatemala.
When I first arrived in Guatemala and I got to know my host family, it was such an amazing experience to be able to connect with people from a different country, even though there's this language barrier between us.
They're so friendly down there. I remember waking up in the morning and like leaving my homestay, and then everyone would say hi to you like when you're walking down the street and you don't even know them.
In the afternoons, they're going to be taking 5 days in a row Spanish classes 101.
I don't think students can learn as much as they learn in 2 weeks in Guatemala with a one-on-one teacher as they can learn in a semester or perhaps even a year in a high school language class.
All the projects that we work on in Guatemala are ones that are determined by the Guatemalan staff and community, so they're not ones that are determined by the U.S.
We would participate in projects regarding like reforestation, maintaining habitats, maintaining like ecosystems.
Working with coffee farmers, working in construction, or working with people in the hospital.
We also work in solidarity alongside youth in Guatemala.
They have the opportunity to gain an even more personal insight into the actions of their own country abroad.
Interacting with the other Chapines and meeting people my age and like building friendships in Guatemala that I still talk to this day really just helped me understand their lives and how it compares to mine.
I went back home and made an effort and started connecting to resources and community organizations that taught me about U.S. imperialism in the Philippines. And so, because I first learned about someone else's struggle in Guatemala, I realized how interconnected it was with my own struggle.
One of the things that I love about Global Visionaries is that it brings youth together here locally first. Youth who would never talk with other participants in this program otherwise.
Getting to really talk with people and really get to know them and get to see them not just as, oh, I'm just staying with this person, or I'm going to know this person for a few days. Like, it made a lasting impression on me, and it really encouraged me to get to know other people in my life that I hadn't really taken the time to get to know. Working with GV, working with people in Guatemala, and getting to do what I got to do through this program was just amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So for this year, we have 2 programs that are for first-year participants. One, it is the program that Travel to Guatemala, that is all culture immersion programs, and we're gonna go in a lot of details about what they are. So this is more like a summary. So this is 14-day in Guatemala, homestay family, service hours, working alongside Guatemalan peers, and doing some sightseeing, like visiting the Mayan ruins, take a trip to Antigua, and learning some salsa lessons. But we also have the Pro-Justice Leadership Program, and this program was designed, as we said in the video, for those folks that perhaps they're not too interested in traveling abroad or are not that comfortable in travel outside still. So that one, you still have the opportunity to take a one-on-one Spanish lessons online, have virtual meetups with Guatemalan peers, volunteer opportunities, and a monthly social workshop that is centered on social justice. And also you have the opportunity to bundle both programs, and there is some savings by doing that. We're gonna be talking about that later down the road. Can we go to the next one? And the next one, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the Pro-Justice Leadership Program. So this is a 12 weeks program. The cohort is the winter cohort, is the only one that we have, and it's gonna start in December 7th with an orientation that goes through March 21st. So application is the same time as right now. So you apply right now. The application deadline is gonna be on October 24th. All selection is gonna be, the announcement is gonna be done by next Friday, that is the 29th. And then there is the orientation that happened in December. And then in January, we kick off with the monthly workshop. So it's once a month, 2 hours. You have the opportunity to do service work. We're gonna have a couple of opportunities through the year that you choose what it is your availability and what there's for your schedule. And through that time, also you start choosing the amount of hours of Spanish lessons that you want to be taking. So the amount of lessons is between 12 to 18, and you decide what it works for you. It's 1 hour, and you sign up and you choose when is the time of the day and that you will work for you to meet with your teacher. And that will happen over 3 months. And every other 2 weeks, we have the meetups with the Guatemalan youth. And then at the end of the program, there is like a final get together virtually when we have everybody in the WhatsApp meeting, the Zoom meeting, that we can just, like see everybody what is talking and make it like, like a celebration at the end for the meetup, virtual meetups. At the end of that program, you have the opportunity to apply to the Advanced Leadership Program that you have met a couple of the students that we have in that program right now. Billy?
All right. So talking a little bit about the Culture Immersion Program, this is the one that you get to travel to Guatemala for 2 weeks, stay with the homestay family. Also during those 2 weeks, you're gonna have 5 Spanish lessons with tutor 101 for 5 days. And also you're gonna be doing some service work, and you're gonna be doing service work during those 2 weeks. And so during these 2 weeks, just to give you a brief idea how they look like, the first 3 days in Guatemala, we adopted this protocol during COVID times, that we will stay in a hostel. It's not a hostel, it's in a house. It's in a house that we rent. And the whole group is gonna stay there for the first 3 days, just to make sure that everything is, and everybody's feeling fine, test negative, and before we move into the homestay families. During this time, during these 3 days, we will deliver a 3-day social justice workshop by the junior leaders that are traveling with us. So junior leaders are the students that are traveling as who are alumni and now in Advanced Leadership Program. And so after those 3 days, we move into the homestay families. Your Spanish schools start in the morning, and then, in the afternoon, and in the mornings, we will have service work. Either building schools, working in the hospital, reforestation, or on the coffee fields, which we're gonna go over more in details a little bit later. Also, during these 2 weeks, you will have the chance to visit some beautiful places like the Mayan ruins, Antigua, which, by the way, you can Google it, Antigua, Guatemala. These beautiful pictures will pop up, and it's a beautiful place. Kids get to visit and see this part of Guatemala. But also, we in the afternoons and later we will have reflections just to go over how was the day, what are we learning, what are we observing, what is the impact that we're doing on the service projects, etc. Right? So, And there will be some chances to have some celebrations like salsa dancing, a little going away gather with the Guatemalan youth. The Guatemalan, right now, while I'm here in Guatemala, I'm in charge of developing the curriculum for the Guatemalan program for Guatemalan youth, and they will be working alongside with the high school students from Seattle in the work sites, right? And so, and not only at the work site, but they will do a lot of activities with them. And so it's a culture exchange program by bringing Seattle students and having Guatemalan students working together in the service projects. Can we go to the next, please? All right, but I mean, I don't get to live in a homestay family or take Spanish lessons. I live in this culture, so I'm gonna leave these students to share more about this. So let's start with homestay families.
Hi, my name is Lucy Jackma. I am a sophomore at Ballard High School, and I use she, her pronouns. I went last summer as a part of the early summer program to Guatemala, and I'm gonna be returning like next summer as a junior leader. But yeah, for the homestay families, basically you're living with like a family, obviously, and you don't really spend like a ton of time there during the day, but you eat like all your meals there, and you sleep there, and you have like roommates and stuff. But I just remember like homestay families being definitely like one of the highlights of my like trip. I think it's really fun to like, it's a really good practice for Spanish because you're just able to talk to like every member, like they can share their stories, you can share yours, and it's a really good conversation practice, and it's a really good way to make good connections, which I feel like I really did. When I went, my homestay family had a lot of people, and yeah, we had 2 kids there and like a dog, and we were able to like play with the dog, and it was so fun to like hang out with the kids and play like soccer and basketball in their little driveway. And it was so hard to say goodbye to them. But yeah, I think it's just definitely like one of the best parts of it all, just like building a connection, because it's like they're your family while you're in Guatemala. And yeah, it was really fun for me.
My name's Henry Jackmott. I also go to Ballard High School and am a sophomore. I will also be a junior leader who's going back to Guatemala next summer. In terms of local culture, I think this trip was really good because it helped us engage with culture, with the Guatemalan culture in many different ways. As Billy mentioned earlier, we had salsa lessons with a private teacher, which was a really cool way to learn some new moves and experience the culture of Guatemala. We also toured Mayan ruins. We visited Iximche, which are Mayan ruins about an hour away from Antigua. And those are really cool just to see the history and learn information about the people that lived in Guatemala before it became Guatemala. We also had experiences working together with the Chapines, who were the Guatemalan youth. That was a really cool experience because we were able to work with them and talk to them and learn through them about how they lived. And it was really cool to see how we were from different parts of different continents almost, and we still had many similarities, and we could kind of find commonalities between us. So I think the local culture was really cool, and that's a very important part of this trip.
Diego, are you?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, the host families. I'm sorry, I need to present myself. My name is Diego. I'm a junior at Lincoln High School, and this year I'm a junior leader, so I'll be going back to Guatemala. Yeah, host families were really, I think, if not like the most important part, one of the most important parts of the trip for me, just because we shared so many, just really fun and special moments, me and my roommates with our host family, playing Uno and Jenga. Our host dad taught us a gambling game, so that was really fun. And just, I don't know, getting to know, I guess, how people live in Guatemala, just their day-to-day lives was really cool. And we had fun moments. Just I don't want to be like mean, but just trying to like watching my roommates, trying to, I guess, like communicate with our host family, because the host family, they don't know any English, and my roommate's Spanish level weren't the highest. So it was really just cool to see how the different ways everyone is able to like convey messages to each other.
Someone was asking in the chat, and so if I encourage people to look at the chat, there's sometimes questions and we just answer it. But someone was asking about if you need to know you need to have any Spanish level. We don't expect anyone to know any Spanish. I mean, anyone can come and apply to this program and learn during these 2 weeks. And I don't know, Diego, do you want to talk a little bit briefly about the Spanish lessons and how that helped you to improve your Spanish while you're
Yeah,
driving?
definitely. Yeah, the Spanish lessons were really nice because they're very student led, so you get to really choose what you want to work on. And if you need to work on grammar, then you can work on that. If you need to like work on your vocabulary, you can tell your teacher that, and you'll be working on that for your lessons. My experience was the first day of Spanish lessons, I kind of just had a conversation with my teacher, so she could see where my level was at. And so I know we did some like grammar stuff for like the first like day or so, but then after that it was really just getting to know each other, having really nice conversation. She told me a bunch of like scary stories and like myths and lore from Guatemala. It was really fun. So yeah, I think Spanish lessons are a really great way to improve your Spanish. If you're starting from zero, then you'll be going over like the basic stuff in your colors and like basic vocabulary, and if you're more advanced, then you'll really be able to like get to the next level of Spanish speaking, especially in terms of conversing. Yeah.
Thanks, Diego. Can we go to the next? All right. Okay, and I already talked a little bit about the service work that you during the 2 weeks that you're gonna be working on service projects. And I know everyone, I mean, here did construction, reforestation, and farming. No one last year could have done the community hospital, which is more like an assisted living house, because it was just closed right in the time when the groups were here in Guatemala. But usually when we work in this house, is just working with babies, from babies all the way to adults, spending time with them. They have a lot of volunteers. They have a lack of volunteers, and they need more people to play with the kids, talk to the abuelos, abuelas, paint with them, play with them, etc. Right? And so just people that have been abandoned by their families, or they need any assisted living, and so we volunteer in this place for the past 12 years, over 12 years, and hopefully this year it's gonna be open again. And so, but I don't know. Someone wants to talk a little bit about construction, and then reforestation, and then farming.
Yeah. For construction, I think that was probably like one of my favorite like jobs out of the 3 that we did. But basically there's like different like things you can be doing. Like, I remember people were like mixing cement with water, and like, because we need the cement to like lay the bricks down. But yeah, so you like get up on this platform and you're like laying like I forgot what it's called, or cement, and then you're like watching actual like workers there, and you're also working with the Chupinas too. So it's really good like practice and just like working with everyone, I guess. But yeah, so you're watching like the workers and they're kind of showing you what to do. So you're like laying down the cement, and then people have to like pour water on the bricks, and you like hand it up, and it's like a little factory line type thing. But yeah, that was kind of what construction was like. And we were doing it at a school. We were like building like this wall, and school, I don't think school was necessarily in session, but there were definitely some kids there and who were just like playing soccer. And yeah, so that was what construction was like.
Akina, are you here? Maybe you can talk a little bit about reforestation.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Akina. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a senior at Cleveland. And I am currently on the board of directors for TV. So for reforestation, you sort of go on like a bus ride up to like the bottom of this mountain, and then you walk up a little part of the mountain to get to the area where you are planting the trees. And I think at first for a lot of people, the hike was like definitely something they did not want to do again. But once you like get up to the like planting areas, it's like really peaceful, and there's like, you can look down on the city, and it's so pretty. And so what you get to do is you get to work one-on-one with one of the Chupinas. So then you work in pairs and you go off, and they have these little like areas where you plant trees. And I think you do that for just like a couple hours. And I surprisingly enjoyed doing reforestation, because it's definitely like one-on-one hanging out with people. You get to like speak Spanish, try to maybe teach them a little bit of English, because some of them are practicing their English too. But it's definitely like a more chill type of work team, I think.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Rachel Claggett. I already introduced myself, but hello again. So I did reforestation and farming when I went, which was during COVID. And I really enjoyed farming. Similar to reforestation work, there's a bus that takes you to the site, but then, well, it wasn't a bus, it was actually trucks. So we would go up this large mountain to the plantation site, and it's a local farmer, a local plantation, because TV really wants to support the community. And so we travel up to the plantation, and I went during late summer, and so there wasn't really any planting that we did, but we did a lot of weeding and like just maintaining the coffee bean like bushes with machetes, which I've never used before in my life. So it was kind of scary swinging around a dangerous object, but you know, we got training and everything. So it was okay, but it was kind of fun after a while actually. But it was really fun to see the coffee, like the process of just growing the coffee bean bush plant and then processing the beans and harvesting them and sorting them. Like, you can really see the skill that goes into sorting coffee beans, because all of us were seated at a table with like a bag or a pound maybe of coffee beans, and it'd take us like 20 minutes to sort through it. And it would take someone who's more experienced with it like maybe 1 minute to 5 minutes. It was really amazing. And the coffee was really amazing. I'm not a big coffee person, but everyone else who was said that it was the best coffee they ever tasted. So I took their word for it. But it was really fun. And if you love coffee, I bet you would love the Guatemalan coffee. And you also get to take some home. Like, you can purchase bags and take some home. And I gave that as gifts to my family, and they loved it. So it was really fun.
All right. thank you all. Thanks for sharing your experience and work projects. We have some pictures here. Okay, here we go. So this is the Guatemala map. And if you see the little white dot, a little bit there, thanks, Sarah. It says San Miguel Escobar, but right a little bit up north, there is a little dot that says Antigua. Well, like I say, if you Google Antigua, it's a beautiful place. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Protected Place. And so thousands of tourists come to this town. We used to be there up in 2010 until 2010, and a lot of the homestays that we were working with, they started looking more like hostels than actually homestays because for the amount of tourism that come to this town. So we just moved 15 minutes away from Antigua to San Miguel Escobar, which is the town where the students stay and where our office is right now. And my coworker Aurelio Hernandez is from this town, and everybody knows Aurelio. He knows all the homestay families way before we start working with them. And so we have been working with the homestay family since 2010 with the same homestay families. Can we go to next, please? I mean, they already shared the experience about their homestay time, but also I want to emphasize that one of the protocols that we have is that all 18-year-old and older members of the family, they have to go through a background check as well. The students will have the chance to evaluate the homestay families at the end of the 2 weeks. If everything works, what do they feel okay, say comfortable staying with them, how we can improve for the next generations, right? For the next cohorts, how we can improve the experience. Luckily, like I said, it's a small community, San Miguel Escobar. You can Google San Miguel Escobar as well. It's a small town and everybody knows each other, they are neighbors. It's a really cohesive community. And we haven't in the past 12 years, we haven't had any problems with the homestay families. And if it's something that's not working out, we can and talk to them directly and see how we can improve. Can we go to the next? Someone is asking in the chat, when is the 2 weeks immersions? It's right here. Here is the 3 options you have. In the spring, there is one in the spring, which goes from April 9th to the 22nd. You do miss 1 week of the spring break of school because we match, of course, we match the 1 week of the spring, and then you're gonna miss the week after the spring break, I believe is. You'll have to work with your teachers. All the schools know the program, plus you're not doing this because of the tourism, you're doing it because you want to do service work abroad, you want to learn about the world, etc. So the teachers are usually very friendly with the program and they can work something out. And then we have 2 options in the summer, which are the early summer goes from July 3rd to 16th. And then the late summer goes from July 27th to August 9th. Of course, this could change to 1 to 2 days, depending on the flights, how available they are, right? How many sports are available in each cohort? Are we expecting between 30, 35 each this year? Yes, thank you, 30, 35. All right. And okay, so another thing is that you should know is that, of course, the main time commitment, it's the 2 weeks in Guatemala, right, when you're away. But there's some events that you have to be aware on each program. What are you expected to attend? So Like applications are due by 24th, and then and 1 week later we notify if you get accepted. And then once you get accepted, you will have to attend one orientation. It's in Seattle, just to get you started. And then if you're doing the summer program, just this is an example, but this is the same for the spring and the 2 summer programs. Your fundraising starts, which we're gonna talk about. What does that mean? What does that look like? And then when the summer comes, you will just a few weeks before your immersion, you will have to attend 1-day workshop, social justice workshop in Seattle. Then there's gonna be a pre-departure meeting just a few days before your immersion. Then you go to Guatemala for 2 weeks, come back. There's one more meeting, just to say goodbye and tell stories about the program. And then you have the option to apply for the advanced leadership program, which all of the youth are doing, right? And the spring program, okay, and it's the same, right? So that's how the time commitment looks like, and all the dates you should get all these dates so you can save it in your calendar once you get accepted. Yeah, and this is the spring timeline, right? It's just basically same, just a little bit more compact because everything happens just before the spring, right? A little bit before, right? What will be a reason we wouldn't be accepted? Too many people are there, other things you are looking for. Well, we're gonna cover that, but I'm just gonna say that we usually don't reject, we just put people on the waiting list. And yes, many of the reasons is just because it fills up. It just fills up. Yeah. All right, so here are the two program. If you do the program, the culture immersion program, you get to stay with a homestay family for 2 weeks in Guatemala. I have 150 hours of Spanish language immersion, right? Speaking to the Guatemalan youth, the homestay family, the locals, and you can get 32 community service hours by the work that we do in Guatemala. There are gonna be some college credits available. You do have to do the, paperwork through Seattle Central Community College. You will have a 3-day social justice workshop, like we mentioned it, and here in Guatemala just before you move into your homestay families. And if you do the Pro Justice Leadership Program, which is the local program, you will have 18 hours of one-on-one Spanish lessons with a Guatemalan Spanish teacher on Zoom, virtual meetups with Guatemalan peers and communication, right? 12 to 24 volunteer hours, 3 social justice workshops as well, right? During those 3 months that the program lasts. And both programs offers structured fundraising support, right? You can do both programs as well, right? Because one is in the winter and the culture immersions are in the spring or in the summer. And you don't have to be involved in any programs, or you can be involved in the programs and have more virtual Spanish lessons. You can always schedule and they can be personalized lessons one-on-one with the Spanish teacher on Zoom.
Great. Okay, so that's been a lot of information. We have a lot more information coming. We're going to break it up just a little bit. We have another very short video, again, less than 3-minute video. This one is a little more focused on the youth leadership aspect of our programs, which I think Rachel alluded to earlier about youth leading programs throughout the entire organization. So after this very short video, Diego is going to lead us in an icebreaker question while we have a short 5-minute bio break. So right after this video, Diego, I'll just have you go right after that. And then after that, we're going to get into the safety and the financial pieces and more questions as well. So again, Rachel, I'm going to watch your screen to see if the sound works. Just give me a quick thumbs up if it does, or thumbs down if it doesn't, and then we'll go from there.
In every aspect of your life, you can be a leader. It's the people closest to you, I think, that have the biggest impact on your own actions.
The leadership skills that you learn through GV help not only from a personal aspect, but it really just motivates you to grow as an individual.
GV is part of a multi-year program, so students actually get to lead each other and not just be led by adults, and really build their leadership skills for up to 4 years of their high school experience.
What GV does really well is it provides youth leaders with the skills and experiences to become more inclusive and empathetic leaders. Those skills that we admire in others, those are the types of experiences that they get every time they're involved in GV.
Having been involved in the program as a high school student for almost my entire high school career, it's amazing to now have the opportunity to really put into practice the ideas, the thoughts, the perspectives that I developed while a student.
My experience in the first year program really helped me to be able to speak publicly and in front of groups. It felt a lot easier for me to contribute to discussions because it was pretty much just a discussion between me and people that were my age.
All the curriculum is delivered by former participants of the first year program. They are part of the Advanced Leadership Program.
The Advanced Leadership Program was an opportunity for me to be able to find my own words and my own way to articulate and have these conversations around social justice concepts and around like the current political and social climate of the world.
The Pro Justice Group gets the opportunity to teach the first year participants about social justice. And so when I was a first year, they came in and were taught by our peers, which I think is really helpful because it doesn't feel like someone's talking down to you because they've kind of gone through the same thing.
For the first hour of a pro-justice meeting, we might have a conversation around classism or capitalism,
US imperialism, the chart of oppression,
conversations about solidarity, about allyship.
Picking apart those concepts and fully unpacking them in a space that felt safe and inviting for people, and with staff and students that felt like they really wanted to be there and they were there to support you through that learning process is something that's really powerful and I think is pretty unique to Global Visionaries.
Coming back from Guatemala and continuing through ALP and continuing GV, through the leadership skills and other skills that I gained, I have been more willing to stand up for myself, stand up for things that I believe in, and I've been motivated to be more involved in my community.
Even if you're not particularly interested in social justice or you're not interested in the travel component of the program, even if that's not your primary objective and wanting to join, I'd say join so that you can better understand the world that you live in and you can better understand yourself as a member of that world.
Awesome. Go for it, Diego.
All right, so I guess while everyone's on their break, I'm gonna put this in the chat as well. I guess the quick question, icebreaker, I don't know. What is one place you've traveled near or far, and what did you learn? So this can be, outside the country or even inside the state, just anywhere you've traveled.
So it is 7:59. We'll resume at 8:04. And in the meantime, you can respond to the question in the chat, or if you have other questions to put in the chat, we can go ahead and put those in there and we'll make sure that we get to those as well. Love to hear where everybody's traveled. Ooh, surfing, fun. Barcelona has some amazing architecture. I love that comment. I've seen that too. It's really, really beautiful. Panama, Hawaii, Australia. Wow, we've got some travelers. I love it. If you're just joining us, I think I saw someone who just joined. We're taking a 5-minute bio break. We're talking about places we've traveled in the chat. We're going to start back up in, I think, about 3 minutes. Oh, lovely. Someone's practicing Spanish already in Argentina. Backpacking. Nice. El Salvador, Paris, Germany. I love it. Vietnam. Wow. Fantastic. There's a quick question from Tammy about the interview. If you have signed up for an interview, you just need one. You don't need to do a teacher and a GV staff. Just if you've already signed up for one, that's it. Mexico. Pasta, lovely. There's another question about the interview. Because we're so close to the date, yes, there's time. Teachers are on call and ready. We also expect that the interview has at least been attempted to be scheduled, and we understand if teachers don't have time to get it in time, but we really hope that they're all in before the 28th if possible. I've heard Limón y Sal. It's a good song. Yes, all of the interviews, well, maybe the teachers aren't do some of them in person, but some of them do it online. And all the interviews with GV staff are done online as well via Zoom. And you will get, once you submit your application, you get a link to schedule those. They're also on our website, a link to schedule those as well. We are going to be talking about safety right after the break. So that question about travel considerations, we'll definitely get to that. All right, it is 8:04. Are we ready to jump back in? Okay, I am going to keep us without the PowerPoint for just a little bit while we talk about safety. Safety is something that obviously is a big concern for all parents. As a parent myself, that is a big concern. Safety is one of our #1 priorities as an organization, of course, and we have a really great safety rating. We're very proud of that. And part of that is because of some of the rules we have in place, but also some of the protocols we have in place. Something that Billy alluded to earlier, talked about earlier, is the relationship we have within San Miguel Escobar. and Aurelio specifically's relationship with the community. And because we have such deep relationships with the families and the entire community, it remains a very small community and a very safe community for us. They know us, and we have done background checks and vetted all of our partners, not just our homestay, but our bus driver and everybody that works with us, and our Spanish teachers as well. And so that is a big reason why our safety remains such a great rate. We also have some rules in place to keep students safe. We remain as a community while we're traveling in Guatemala. Students are never alone. They all are always with the group with a GV staff person or with their homestay family. So they're not out doing things on their own, and so they remain very safe within the community atmosphere that we have. And honestly, they don't really have time to go out on their own anyway, because we're working and we're doing Spanish lessons and activities, and then you're with your family at the home as well. So students are never out by themselves. We have a strict no drugs and alcohol rule, which keeps everyone safe as well. And we also foster, I think Mila actually talked a little bit about this when she introduced herself, about the community that we foster within the cohorts themselves, between the students, and looking out for each other and making sure that everybody is working together. We really work hard to keep cliques out of the cohorts. And so if you're traveling with your best friend, you won't be in the same household. We won't room you together. If we know that you have a friend, you'll get to be together in the big group, but we want to make sure that everybody is meeting new people and looking out for each other as a whole group and not just your clique. And so that's another piece that keeps us looking out for each other. We also have insurance, domestic and foreign insurance. We have health insurance. We have all of the insurances to make sure that students are safe. But we encourage each student to have their own insurance as well. We have a doctor in the community that we work with. We also work really closely with each student and their family prior to travel to understand their medical needs, any medications that they're taking, any allergies or those kinds of things. And we work with the host families to know that. We have students who travel who are vegan, who have peanut allergies, who are allergic. I even traveled with a student who was allergic to black beans, which was, kind of a staple in Guatemala, but her host family was able to work around that. So we work around all of that to make sure that students are safe and prepared for all of that. The biggest health concern that we actually see during the immersions is dehydration. And so we work really hard. There's even a student within the cohorts or each work group that is in charge of making sure everybody's drinking water. We actually use filtered water while we're in Guatemala. So the filtered water is given to each student and their homestay family, and they use that filtered water for cooking. They use that filtered water for brushing their teeth, for drinking, and it keeps everybody safe. But we really push the water to make sure that everybody stays hydrated. And we're constantly checking with every student as well, just to see what stomach issues they might be having that day, if they've gotten a bug bite and how we treat that and all of those kinds of things. So we're constantly working through that. And on top of that, now we have new COVID protocols as well. And so Billy mentioned that we do a hostel stay for the first couple of days while we're in Guatemala. That started because of COVID, and we wanted to have this quarantine time before we went to see the homestay families, but we're actually going to keep that because it creates this lovely opportunity for students to bond before they go deeper into their immersion experience. And we do the social justice workshops together in the hostel. And so that's one protocol that we've instituted for, I don't know, I keep saying post-COVID, but I don't feel like that's an appropriate term to say. But since we've traveled after the pandemic started, and we also, up to this point, have been wearing masks. The mask mandate hasn't been lifted in Guatemala, at least until during the trips that we've taken. If that changes by the time we travel, we'll adjust as needed. But we are making sure that masks are worn everywhere except for when you're eating and when you're in your homestay bedroom. We've had a lot more sanitizer being used and COVID tests that we do on a regular basis throughout COVID times and during the immersion. We also have some protocols in place for if a student does become ill and test positive for COVID. We did have a couple of students over the summer test positive and one in the spring. And we were able to isolate that student and treat them and help them through that isolation time until they tested negative and were able to rejoin the group. And so we do have protocols in place for dealing with that, unfortunately, but everything worked out well, and we had very minimal cases actually throughout these 3 trips that we had over the summer. The one other thing that I would say about safety that I don't think I mentioned is that we have tourist police that actually follow us while we're out when we go on our excursions to see the ruins, and when we go to our work sites, they follow us. Not because it's mandatory when you're in Guatemala, but it's an extra precaution that we put in place. We've never actually used them for any sort of security measure, but they get to hike up the mountain with us when we do reforestation, and they get to go to the ruins when we're there as well. So that's just an extra added safety precaution. I will say at this moment also, students do not bring electronics on this immersion. It helps to, well, first of all, it's an international situation, and so their cell phones aren't really going to work anyway. And so we just have them leave their cell phones at home with their parents. And so they don't have cell phones while they're there. But the adults, the trip leaders, and the GV staff do have cell phones. And so we have a whole communication plan where parents can reach us if they need to. And we're constantly sending photos and messages every day about what's going on. And then we have a phone call home about halfway through where everybody gets to call whoever they want. Hopefully they call their parents, but we can't mandate who they call. But we have that about halfway through. So we do have good communication. It's just not through your student's cell phone. Does that make sense? Hopefully. I don't know if there's a student on the call tonight that would like to talk about what it was like not having your phone for 2 weeks. Zaya, I see your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, so I was about to type a message, but I'll say it now. So as a student who went in very anxious and very, I guess, coming in with a negative mindset, especially because I wouldn't have my phone. I wouldn't have that, I guess, since I have anxiety and I'm autistic, that coping skill that I have. But literally, it didn't even matter. Like 2 days in, it didn't even matter. And I found myself being like, the connections that you make there, they go so fast. In such a short amount of time, I became like family with like my host family and my roommates. And the truth is, like, without having the phones in the situation, like if we got home and we had our phones, we wouldn't be like talking or making the connections that we had. So without having like the distractions from, I guess, the quote unquote real world, and just being able to like have that day-to-day like connection with people, it really was impactful. And yeah, I didn't even miss my phone. And I'm being completely honest. I was so negative. I was probably one of the most negative people going in without my phone. And then I came out with having the best experience I've ever had. And like the phone really, like, it doesn't really matter once you're there. Like, and you're gonna be like, oh, she's lying, they're lying, I'm gonna miss my phone so much. It's not gonna be worth it. It is worth it. And it should not be something that turns you away from the program, because it's just so amazing without your phone. And if you're like, oh, pictures, you can bring a camera and you can be the camera person for your group. And there's tons of pictures taken by the adults with the phones and all that sort of stuff. I mean, like on our Flickr, I think we have like over 150 pictures. So it's a lot. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. And the phone shouldn't be an issue at all.
Thanks, Zaya. And I promised we didn't coach her on what to say. Zaya, that was all Zaya. So I'm gonna, at first I'm gonna see if there's any questions about safety or health at the moment.
Can I add something, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually require that all the parents and people that are applying to the program go to the State Department Travel Advisory. And when you're looking into that, I want you to also think what the travel advisory will be to travel into New York, Chicago, or even places here in Seattle. I know that there is a travel advisory that some countries have to travel to the United States due to the gun violence. But anyway, also, the reason that I want to talk about this is we do a smart traveling. As Sarah mentioned, the participants don't go out at night at all. We are never alone. We hire the police, as Sarah said, and the 3 areas that are considered red zone. One is in Guatemala City, that is Zona 18. I actually grew up there, and my family still live there. And I can tell you that it is, I'm not afraid to walk in there. Every time that I go and see my family, I go and see them. And the other 2 areas that are red zone are near the border with Mexico. That is Huehuetenango and San Marcos. And that's like 300 kilometers, 250 kilometers from where we are. So we're like not even closer where we are there. And lastly, Antigua, Guatemala brings a lot of tourists into my country. So the government is actually trying to put a lot of efforts and keep that place safe from crime. That is kind of like the main area. So Guatemala City and border towns are kind of like the red zones that we are not getting close to there. So just want to add that as a clarification.
Thank you, Mario. I appreciate that. So I'm going to share my screen again because there's a couple of things that we want to cover before we get to 8:30 and then open it up for questions again. So I'll just pull that back up. Sorry, we went too far. So here are some of the immersion guidelines. These were regarding COVID specifically. We won't be having smaller immersions now. We did at first. We talked about the 2-day quarantine and that also homestay families, as well as students and trip leaders, all are required to be vaccinated for COVID at this point. So I'm going to turn it over to Mario to talk about financial.
Because I was trying to answer a question, but some of the ALT already answered the questions. Like flights go to LA, Houston, sometimes Miami. It depends where we get the cheapest airfare. But yeah, so can we go to actually the next slide so I can explain a little? So the program fee is based off on a sliding scale. So the price can change for the Pro Justice Leadership Program can go between $40 that is in the families that make the less money, up to the full price that is $1,280. For the cultural immersion is $300 to $4,500, and if you bundle is $450 to $5,000. There is about a $700 discount in the higher range of the spectrum of the program. And how it works is like we ask the families that if they are applying for financial aid that they submit their annual income before taxes. And this one can give you an example, depending where you are, the scholarship that you can get and what will be the estimated cost of your program. The full price will kick in for families that make over $250,000 a year. That's when the full price kick in. If the family doesn't make that, it's like getting lower and lower and lower. And we know, like the last few years, especially, the pandemic has affected us all, right? Some of us more than other ones. We know that perhaps what is the estimated cost, it might be still a lot. So we also provide opportunities to fundraise. And we actually put a couple of those opportunities ourselves. So we sell reads, we sell coffee. We actually put a fundraising workshop that Sarah lead in and just provide ideas about fundraising. And I know that some of the students that we have here have done fundraising as well. I think that Shea, you said like you also did some fundraising?
Yes, I did some fundraising. Should I talk about it?
Yes, yeah. Please.
Okay. So basically, I got a scholarship, but even with that scholarship, it's still it was still like hard to afford it. And Global Visionaries makes it super possible to be able to afford anything, even with fundraising. I remember people mentioning that some people even fundraised for their entire trip cost with the easy fundraising that Global Visionaries helps you do. So for me personally, I did some wreaths and some coffee sales, and Global Visionaries helps facilitate that and get the resources needed for that. They also do a workshop or sort of thing to help create this website, similar to GoFundMe, but it's similar to GoFundMe, where family members or people can donate to your funds. And yeah, that's really simple. So that's for family members or people who want to donate and don't want to buy the cookbooks, coffee, or wreaths. As I mentioned, Global Visionaries makes it really easy and affordable. With fundraising, I believe personally, and what my family has said, if cost is a scary thing or like an issue, or it can be a bit daunting to look at. Like, some people are like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive, that $4,000 trip, how am I going to afford this? And I personally don't believe that should be an issue, given the the amount of help Global Visionaries helps with students fundraising and providing those resources in order to achieve the goals. And like I mentioned, people have even fundraised for their entire trip. So I don't think that should be a concern for some people, and I cannot speak for everybody, but yeah, with my personal experience, it became very affordable, both with scholarships and fundraising. And if cost is a worry, I definitely would still apply for Global Visionaries and go through with it, because it is 100% worth it.
Yeah, thank you, Saya. And I forgot to mention that in the application, there is also a question that it asks for any special circumstances. So we know that sometimes what is reflected on the taxes, on the paper, is not representative of the household. So we ask for any additional information, and we take that in consideration at the time that we are allocating the scholarship or the financial aid. The other thing that I want to say, it also depends on the time of the student that dedicate to fundraise. For some students, might be a very hard thing to do. For some other ones, will be a little bit more natural. But if the student actually and have the help of the family, they can raise in average between like $300 to $400 easily. We have a student that have raised $1,500 and above, but definitely they have a lot of support, and they dedicate a lot more time to do the fundraising as well. Any questions about the costs? Please, if there is a question, you can also put it in the chat. We're happy to answer that way. Or if you want to just make it like a private question, you can also just ping Sarah or me or any of the people here, and we can answer privately as well. So how to sign up? You guys did that already. The first step, that is attending an information session. The application is live on the website. There are 4 essay questions. They are not like like college application essay questions. They are like more simple. It's like, what do you want to do the program? What do you think you can make this program better for yourself and for everybody else? So they're pretty simple essay questions. And we have it at the beginning of the application. So if you want to practice before you do the application, you can do that. You cannot save the application. So when you sit down, you need to complete it in order for us to get the result. If you don't complete it, the results never come to us. So, and I know that a couple of times that happens. So please, you need to submit the application completely. There is a deposit that you need to pay. It's a $50 deposit if you're applying for financial aid, or $250 if you're not requesting financial aid. You can pay that online or send a check as well. We accept both of those. It is refundable if the person is not accepted into the program, and if it's accepted, goes towards the participant fees. And as we have been saying on the chat, there is an interview, that you need to complete either with your teacher at your school or with one of the staff at Global Visionaries. And it's just for people that are applying for the immersion programs. Am I missing anything, Sarah, on this, or Billy, or anybody else about the application steps?
There's someone asking about the deposit, and I was just gonna put it in the chat. When you submit your application, you should get an auto response that gives you a link to pay the deposit, but you can also just go to the website and it's under donate and then support a student. And you can do that online, or you can also just mail a check as well, which the address should be on there as well.
Yeah, there is a section in the application when we ask how many dependents the family has to we put that on in consideration. Billy, do you know we have a teacher doing applications in interviews in Cleveland?
He's shaking his head no, but he's mute.
No teacher in Cleveland, right? So it gotta be with one of the staff.
And so there's a question about the deposit now. The deposit should be in process by the time acceptance happens. So when you submit your application, you should be able to then pay that deposit right away. We won't kick you out just because the deposit hasn't reached us, but we hope that it happens around the same time. I don't recall, Mario, if you said, if you're applying for financial aid, the deposit is actually $50, but if you're not applying for financial aid, it's $250. So there is a difference there. And we said, I think already, that the applications are due October 24th. I think I'm going to stop sharing now and see what other questions we have. Are there other questions out there? You can use the chat, or you can unmute. We can't really see everybody, so if you raise your hand, we might miss that. But
was the question asked about the financial information answered? Because there's a question asking about that.
What's the question, Zaya? Maybe call it out.
Yeah, it says, where do we pay for the deposit online and submit financial information? We had trouble finding it on the website.
So you should be able to, there should be a link again for the deposit, but you can also go to the website and it's the donate. I'll put the link for making a payment in the chat here in a minute. And then to do the financial documents, there is in the application itself, there's a way for you to upload documents. And if you didn't get those uploaded, we'll follow up with you, because there's not a way to just upload it without getting a specific link. So if we don't get documentation, we'll follow up with you before the application is done. And then there is a question that just came to me. Application interviews can be done in Zoom or just in person. It depends who you're interviewing with. If you're interviewing with a GV staff person, it will be done on Zoom because we're dealing with quite a lot of them at the moment. Teachers, that's up to them. Sometimes they will want to do them on Zoom, or sometimes they will have you come into their classroom, and it's a 10 to 15-minute interview, so it's very short. Okay, I'm gonna find that link for the payments and put that in just a second. Are there other questions?
I would just like to put out there, in case someone hasn't thought of the question, but for me and in my family, it was very important. Global Visionaries is very equal opportunity. So if you have any disabilities or health problems, or you need to take medication with you on the trip, Global Visionaries is very accepting about that. For me, I was able to just keep my medication with me at all times and just make sure that I'm reporting to Sarah or Mario or whoever is there, what medications I'm taking. If you take Tylenol, just make sure you tell them. so that they just know like where you're at health-wise, because that's very important. And so I personally have also arthritis. And so for me, hiking up the mountain was very challenging, but Mario stayed behind with me, and I also had like a hiking buddy. So everything is at your own pace, and GV will make the accommodations necessary for you to enjoy the trip to its fullest. So I want to make sure everyone knows that.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'm jotting down a couple of other questions. Billy, do you want to talk about medical access?
Yeah. There is, well, most of the cases, like Sarah mentioned at the beginning, is just diarrhea, people not drinking enough water. And so when things like that happen, we usually go to a local doctor who lives in San Miguel Escobar, in the town where the students stay, and also he's a homestay family. If we need to have access to a hospital, I'm knocking wood here, we have like 5 private hospitals in Antigua, Guatemala, who, like I said, very close to where we're staying. And all of these hospitals, we would use the private hospitals because it's easier to access, right? They will attend us faster. And they usually are the hospitals that usually tourists attend when they need to, right? So every adult has access to this information. The kids are, like I said, kids are in San Miguel Escobar. Aurelio, who is my co-worker, he has a car. Mario, if he's in the cohort, he brings his car from Guatemala. And so there's going to be always accessibility to a hospital in Antigua and with the doctor in San Miguel Escobar.
Billy, while you're talking, can you talk about weather in April?
April is going to be hot. It's going to be, well, I don't know. We don't get as hot as your summer, probably around the 80s. Yeah, that's the maximum 80s, right? That's going to be in April is usually our hottest month of the year, between March and April.
But we are also in the mountains, so at the evenings, the temperature can drop to like 67, 68, yes, I think.
You're right.
And sometimes in rain, but it's usually or summer, quote unquote.
Yeah, the reason the people, well, it's not as much of the weather, it's more the altitude that affects more of the students, right? And so we're going to be around 5,000 feet above the sea level. So that's where we ask the people to drink a lot of water.
Great. The other questions that I've jotted down, and see if I've missed any, was if you're applying for the ProJustice and other program and the immersion program, can you just do one application? And yes, and that would be considered a bundle, and you just choose. So in the application, you choose ProJustice, the local non-travel program, immersion program, or bundle, which is both. And then there was a question about, can you donate to support other scholarship students or a general scholarship fund? And the answer is yes, of course. We're a nonprofit and we're trying to raise funds for scholarships. So if you want to make a donation to support scholarships, you can do that on our website as well. Other questions that I've missed or that we need to cover?
Sarah, there's a question, and I don't know if it's exactly what you mentioned, but can you, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm following the question, but I think it's like, can you apply to different cohorts? And do you need to make deposits in each of the cohorts, or is just one application for all the cohorts? I think it is.
Do you want to answer that?
Sure. If what I understood is correctly, is like you just submit one application, and in the application is gonna say like, you know, like, please select what your first choice, second choice, and third choice, And there's a section that said, you know, like I don't have a choice. I can go into whatever cohort if that's exactly what you're asking. And it's just one deposit. So you don't need to put deposit of any of the other 2 cohorts, if that makes sense. And I think that with the bundle is already, Sarah explained that part.
Yeah, I think the other possible way to explain that would be if you want to, we wouldn't have a student travel in multiple cohorts this year because we only have a certain number of spots. And so if Rachel wanted to travel in the spring and then again in summer, we'd say, why don't you choose one this year and then you can be a junior leader next year and go again. So we try to honor that first choice of cohort as much as possible. But again, we have to mix and match, which is why we ask you to do first and second choice. And then if there's one you can't do, then you can list that as well. Hopefully that, if that didn't answer your question, please ask again, maybe worded in a different way. Other questions? We are at 8:35 actually, and we will stay around for any questions as long as you need us to. But I'm wondering if there's a student or Mila or someone who wants to just kind of give a last kind of comment about the program, and then we'll close off, but we'll stay on for any additional questions.
I don't know. I think that just Global Visionaries is just such a good program, and my experience in Guatemala was so good, and I've just never done anything like that before. And I think it's just something that like everyone should experience like at least once, you know, like just like I've traveled before, but I don't think I've ever like engaged with like community or like the culture, the environment, like as much. Like I think my travel has been more like touristy. And so I think it's just really important to like experience the other side of travel. And also just like, I feel like I learned so much. I learned a lot of Spanish, first of all. And then I also just learned a lot of like history and like how the US is involved in a lot of like foreign countries. And like, I think it's one thing to like hear about it in school. And I don't even know if I've really heard about it in school. And I think it's another thing to actually see it and experience it, or like just be able to see it firsthand. And I think that that is just something that you can't find very often. And I think that when we have opportunities like this, it's just, I think it's just so good to just like take advantage of them and like be able to experience like so many new things and stuff like that.
Thanks, Lucy. With that, I'm going to say thank you so much for spending the evening with us. And if you have other questions, please let us know. I'm going to put our email in here as well. But most of the information is on our website. You will be getting an email from Calendly with the application link as well. But anything else you need, please let us know. Gracias a todos and buenas noches.